Hello, everyone, and welcome to Skipperi. My name is Kevin, and today I am accompanied by my colleagues Andrew, Fleet Manager, Sydney, Customer Service and Marketing Manager, as well as Emily, Customer Service Specialist. Today, our objective is to welcome you to the Skipperi program and share with you all of the relevant information that will facilitate your onboarding to your Skipperi journey. So without further ado, let's jump right into today's agenda. We will cover the introduction of Skipperi, the onboarding overview covered in 4 sections, how the service and the app works, the boat layout and functions, and lastly, the boat handling training portion and the Ports Toronto permit needed only for members using vessels in the Toronto Harbor. We'll wrap it up with some customer service information and some closing remarks. First, it's important to mention Skipperi is a global business with its global headquarters in Finland, operating since 2017. We also operate in 5 other countries, Finland, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and New Zealand outside of Canada, and with expansion plans to the US and Australia. Your membership allows you to boat in different countries and utilize over 400 vessels. So our mission at Skipperi is pretty simple. It is to develop simple and sustainable ways to make boating accessible for everyone and enable people to enjoy the benefits of being out on the water. We take care of all the hassle of owning your own boat so that you can only enjoy the fun parts of boating. I will now play a quick 90-second video that recaps well what the Skipperi journey is all about.
Last summer was just amazing. It was my first summer as a skipper. It was unbelievable. All the small islands and new beaches we visited. And we don't even own a boat. I don't exactly remember when I found Skipperi, but they opened a whole new world for me. Shared use motorboats with a monthly subscription, as it's supposed to be these days. With the same subscription, we got to go boating in a bunch of different cities as well. I went boating like 30 times last summer. I heard that one user had done almost 100 boat trips. Wow. But Skipperi doesn't limit the amount of trips you make, so you can get out there as often as it fits your own schedule. The booking calendar was super handy. I could have 2 active reservations at a time, and how they would work is that you could book a boat for the same day or the next day, and the other one can then be made from the day after tomorrow and onwards. A few times we combined both of our bookings into a whole day booking and went camping on this super cute small island that had only like 2 trees there. It was so wonderful. And oh yeah, the days are split in 2, so you can either go boating in the morning and during the day, or grab a boat for the afternoon and the evening. Did I mention that the boats were fully equipped? I mean, they had like life jackets and plotters and sea charts and everything. And you could book the boat and get the keys through the Skipperi app. So basically, to get out on the water, all you need is your phone. And hey, something really cool. Before last summer, I was a complete beginner, and I got loads of information and advice through the Skipperi Academy. On top of all the online content, Skipperi arranges practical training for beginners. The Skipperi team made sure I had enough training to safely head out with my family. Oh, hey, I gotta go now. I need to book the boat for us. See ya.
So hopefully this can give you a good overview of what you can expect from your Skipperi membership. And I will now pass it over to Sydney, who will cover the information about her fleet.
Thanks, Kevin. So our fleet here at Skipperi is comprised of Starcraft vessels ranging in 17 to 23 feet. All of our vessels are equipped with durable Yamaha outboard engines. The capacity of our boats follows safe boating practices. Our 17, 19, and 21-foot boats have a capacity of 8, and our pontoon and our 23-foot boats have a capacity of 10 people on board. You can now use the Skipperi service in 8 locations across Lake Ontario. From east to west, we have Frenchman's Bay, Bluffers Park Marina. We have 4 locations in downtown Toronto, so Queens Quay and Yonge, Queens Quay and Reese, Queens Quay and Dan Leckie, and Outer Harbour Marina. In the Western GTA, we have Hamilton, Harbor West Marina, and in Mississauga, we have Port Credit Harbor Marina. You can boat from any of these locations, and with our unlimited boating subscription, global reciprocal use is included with your membership as well. Our GTA locations, most of them boast complimentary parking, as well as complimentary parking at Outer Harbor Marina in downtown Toronto. Parking for our other downtown locations can be found along Queens Quay. There also is a paid parking lot directly beside our Yonge Street location. So Skipperi is a one-stop shop for getting you out on the water. I'll go over quickly what is included in your Skipperi subscription. So with your subscription, you're receiving complimentary practical training, insurance is included, as well as maintenance, winterization, and storage. You're going to receive access to 40 StarCraft boats in those 8 different locations across Lake Ontario with reciprocal global access with our unlimited boating subscriptions. You receive 1 last-minute reservation and 1 pre-reservation available to you at a time on a rolling reservation basis. So once you complete that booking, it then becomes available to you again. We do guarantee weekly boating, but our members last season did average 3 reservations a week. You'll be able to get out on the water from May 1st to October 31st, and you're going to enjoy on the water customer service 7 days a week from 8 to 8 via email and phone. I'll now pass it over to our Fleet Operations Manager, Andrew, who will be covering more on how the service works.
Great, thanks, Sydney. I'm going to actually share my screen to start by showing live how our app works. Just bear with me here for a second while I do a screen share. And I am going to start by going directly to the Skipperi app, which looks just like this at the top right corner on my phone. I click on the Skipperi app, and right away I see 5 tabs across the bottom in the blue banner along the base of the screen. Those 5 tabs really allow you to have access to all the different parts of the app. The first section here is called Ahoy. This is the leftmost button along the bottom banner. And the Ahoy, first of all, an Ahoy is an old sailor's term for when calling another vessel. You'd shout out, Ahoy! This is us shouting out messages to you. So all these messages that are listed in the Ahoy section, including how to check in, how to check out, some dock safety tips, how to fuel the boat, boat equipment maps. These are all frequently asked questions or information that we want to broadcast out to you that you can have at your fingertips whenever you're utilizing the app. You can browse these Ahoys before your first reservation. You can reference the information inside during your reservation. It's meant to be a bit of a library of important tips and tricks that you might need as a reference document, both before, during, and after your reservations. The next tab is called the Reservations tab, and you'll notice as soon as I click on it, nothing's in here right now. I'm going to add a reservation here in just a moment, so we're going to come back to this tab in a few minutes, and I will show you how to begin checking into your reservations once they're made. Before getting too far with that tab, though, the center tab across the bottom of the screen is the Reserve tab, and this is where you start to select a boat or to begin a reservation process. You'll notice as soon as I push the Reserve tab, a list of cities comes up, not only in Canada, but across the world. Along the top of this screen are the Canadian cities where we have locations. I'm working out of Toronto today, so I'm going to click on Toronto to reserve a boat for today. And then I'm given my 3 different options for reservation types. The first is a last-minute booking, meaning it's for either today or for tomorrow. A pre-reservation means it's available after tomorrow, and a full-day reservation combines both of those reservations and can only be booked with 8 days' notice. You only ever have one of each reservation type on the books at any one time, and as Sydney mentioned a few minutes ago, it's on a rolling reservation cycle. So once you complete the last-minute reservation that you've booked for today or for tomorrow, it becomes available to you again to use for a day and a half from now or 2 days from now. So if I wanted to book a boat for today, I can click on last-minute reservation, and immediately it opens a calendar view to show me today's date and tomorrow's date. If I click on today's date, I will see whatever boats are might be available at that location. So I'm looking at Toronto. The list of all of the boats available is listed here. I would simply scroll down to see which ones are available. If I scroll back up to the top, I'm going to see a boat called Adelaide. And there are 2 reservation time periods, 8:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. listed here, and both are colored green, meaning that they are both available. If I wanted to go boating this afternoon, I can click on Adelaide, push the blue reserve this boat button at the bottom of the screen, and I would select whichever time period that I would like. The first time period available, the daytime time period, is 8:30 a.m. until 4 p.m. The evening is 4:30 p.m. until 8 a.m. the next day. Also, a full day and an overnight reservation, combining both reservation types, is also available. If I wanted to go boating this afternoon, I could click on the morning reservation between 8:30 and 4. And that doesn't mean I have to show up at 8:30 and leave at 4. I can come and go as I please. I can arrive at 9 a.m. and leave at 11. I can show up at 1 and leave at 3. Or I can continually stay checked in for the entire period. I can take the boat out at 8:30, go for a morning cruise, return the boat to dock, not check out, but leave the keys behind, go for lunch, return to the boat, access the keys out of our lockbox, and go boating again this afternoon, all under one reservation. So there's many different ways to utilize these reservation types, and we try to maximize the amount of available time for you to enjoy on the water. So if I wanted to go boating this afternoon, I would click on that morning reservation type, and I would say confirm reservation. The boat is now mine, and it's ready to go. If I flip back now to the reservations tab, you'll notice that there's a little 1 beside it, indicating that there's a new reservation on the books. If I click on that reservations tab, I'm now greeted with all the reservations that I have on the books. A moment ago when I showed you this tab, nothing was populated here. Now I have the daytime booking for today on Adelaide. Adelaide is the boat's name. It's located at the Outer Harbor Marina. It is a Starcraft SVX 171, and I have it booked from today, on today's date, from 8:30 a.m. till 4 p.m. If I want to check into that reservation, I would simply click on the reservation, and I begin the check-in process. You'll notice the big blue circle saying check-in. That's where I would start that check-in process. Before I get there, though, a few important things. When I scroll down, I'm going to see I have 3 tabs: reservation, boat, and location. The reservation tab shows me more about the reservation itself. Examples include gate access, if there are certain gate codes or other access types, gate passes and things required in order to get into the area, to get to the boat. There will also be information on the boat lockbox, which is a code required to get to the ignition key. Once we finish checking in, the boat lockbox will become populated to allow us to get into the ignition key. And further across this screen, you'll see the boat tab and location tab. When I push on the boat tab, I'm going to be greeted with a couple of different things. The first most important part here is a list of what we call known issues. These are things that we already know about, that we have logged, our Skipperi staff have logged as reports from members or reports from staff of concerns on the boat that we haven't yet addressed. So anything that's known that we haven't fixed yet is going to be listed here. Once things get addressed or fixed, they will be removed from these known issues. And the purpose of this really is to indicate to you anything that may be away from the norm on this boat, so that you don't show up and get worried about, oh, wait, there's scratches on the side of the hull. Do they know about that? This tells you right away, or indicates to you right away, that we do in fact know about it and we're planning to address it. The other way that we use this section is people use boats in different ways at different times of day. So as an example, this boat has a stern light that does not work. This means that the boat should not ideally be used after dark because a stern light is required to be shown after the hours of darkness. So in this case, I would be very comfortable using it during the day, but may choose a different boat for nighttime boating. In this case, because I'm boating this afternoon, I don't need to worry about the stern light, so I'm going to be okay to go ahead and begin that check-in process. A really important note here: when you do book a boat, be sure to check the known issues tab as your first step to confirm that the known issues that are listed fit your needs and that you get the right boat that's ideal for you, your trip type, and the people that you have on board with you. When I scroll back up, I can start that check-in process. I'm sorry, one more tab. The location tab, I missed that one. Will tell you more about the location itself. It'll give you a bird's eye view of the marina itself. It gives you a physical address so that you can arrive at the marina, so that you can find your boat correctly if you haven't been to that location, as an example, before. Also listed here will be parking information and washroom access information. So if you need more info on where to park, how to park, where washrooms can be found, where restaurants locally can be found as well. We try to populate this area to give you as much information as possible to enjoy your day best. When I begin the check-in process, I'll push that big blue circle listed as check-in, and immediately I'm greeted with a checklist. It'll say arrive at the boat. I'm pretending that I'm here now. You'll be guided to take photos of the boat. I'm going to go through go through the checklist to report any possible issues. I will then receive a code for the lockbox to get the ignition key, and it then instructs me to turn on the main power. Every boat has a main power switch that needs to be turned on first. Without turning that main power on, the ignition key won't work. So we've reminded you in the checklist to turn that on as a first step before continuing in the check-in process. Once I've done those 5 things or confirmed those 5 things, I will say start check-in, and immediately my camera opens on my phone and I'm greeted with an outline of a bow. This is the front of a bow in the Nordics. I would line up the bow of the boat with, as best I can, this outline, and then take a picture. When I'm ready to take a picture, I'll push the take picture button, and it immediately snaps a picture of the boat itself. When I'm okay with that photo, I would click next, and it then asks me to take a picture of the propeller. This is the lowest part of the engine that drives the boat forward, and we want to confirm that the spinning propeller doesn't have any broken blades or any damage to it at all. So you take a picture at check-in, and you also take the same picture at check-out to confirm that the propeller stays in good shape. So I will visually look at the propeller, line up the outline with the back of the boat, and then take a photo. It then asks me to confirm that photo. There it goes. And the last photo I need to take at check-in and check-out is the skeg. The skeg is the bold outline piece below the propeller. This is the lowest part of the boat, and it can be damaged by running through shallow areas. We just want to confirm again that nothing has happened to that skeg, that no damage has taken place. So I'll line up the outline here with the skeg of the engine and take a final picture. I now confirm the picture is good, and I'm greeted with another checklist. Item number 1 says bow, propeller, and skeg. This is a second confirmation that you have physically looked at the bow, propeller, and skeg. You're not just taking pictures. You need to physically look at them on the boat to make sure that you're taking a good photo to indicate that nothing is damaged before your reservation. The second point on the checklist is to confirm the boat has been cleaned. The third is that all safety equipment is on board: life jackets, safety gear, flares, paddle, anchor, etc., all required by law. They are all supplied by us, but we're asking you to verify that they're all on board and in good condition. Fourth is the boat is generally okay, and this is your opportunity to indicate that something else might be wrong. Perhaps the mooring lines were tied incorrectly by the last person. Perhaps the boat is dirty and hasn't been cleaned correctly. Maybe you're missing some life jackets. This is your opportunity to report by pushing the red report issue button. This will then send a real-time notice to our staff. If something is urgent, we may be able to give you a call to repair any issues or to fix the situation for you so that you're able to go boating. If it's something that's less urgent, we will make sure it's added to our list of tasks for the day or the following days to ensure that we get things repaired and in good condition moving forward. Below this list is a repeat of those known issues. You don't need to re-report any issues that we already know about. If they're listed here, you don't need to add that report issue button. But if they're not listed here, we would like to hear about them so that we can add them to our list of things to do. Once you've confirmed that all these 4 items are okay, you're going to push the I have checked the boat button. And this then takes us back to the main page for the reservation, giving us now a boat lockbox code. That code can be entered on the boat lockbox, which is mounted just below the helm, to access the ignition key. Alternatively, you can push the press to open button just next to that code, and it will allow you to use the Bluetooth on your phone to unlock that lockbox rather than punching in 9 numbers. Either or, you're able to use either one to access the ignition key, but that's how you get to the key to begin your reservation. You'll notice that the blue button across the bottom now says check out. This screen can stay on your phone for the rest of your reservation. You don't need to use anything else on the app once you're checked in. At this point, you now have access to the ignition key to be able to begin your journey. You can close your app. When you open the app again, it will bring you right back to that same screen. So once you have the key and begin your trip, you can close the app, play your music, use everything else on your phone that you may want to use. When you want to check out, or if you want to access the lockbox on board in the future, you can simply reopen the app and it brings you right back to that page. Once I'm checked in, I can also still have full access to the other parts of the app. I can go back to the Ahoy section if I want to, if I need to reference a certain document. And I can also scroll over to the other two tabs across the bottom of the screen. The second to last tab is called the Destinations tab. And Emily's going to get into this a little bit later on in the presentation. But the Destinations tab essentially gives you a view of different points that either we have created or your fellow members have created of interesting spots around where our boats are. These could be restaurants, or a great place to fish, or to dock, or to explore the Toronto Islands, or a spot to go swimming. Interesting places that people have found that they want to share with you, or that perhaps we want to share with you, of places to go. So if you're curious about where maybe to go during your trip, you can always take a look at the Destinations tab. You'll notice that the blue dot in the center of all the other large dots, that's where I am right now. That's where my phone is found on GPS. So if you happen to be out boating and you're not sure what's around you or where you might want to go for the rest of your journey, you can open the Destinations tab to see perhaps what's nearby or something cool that you can check out along the way. The final tab along the bottom here is the Settings tab. There's a couple of interesting parts in here. Under the first section, the membership button, you'll notice along the bottom is the contract. This is your member agreement, and we're going to reference this a couple of times later in the presentation as well. But inside this very legally written document is all of your rights and responsibilities, the things that we're promising to you in terms of reservations and availability and all those different pieces, but also the things that you are accountable or responsible for. So things like making sure that the boat is kept clean, making sure that you refuel the boat appropriately, and we'll get into that later on in the presentation as well. But also things like any sort of payments that may be owed in terms of behaviors, damages, etc. They are all listed as clearly as we can make them inside that contract. And I do encourage you to take a look at that, even though it's a bit of a tough legal read. Really important for you to understand exactly what your rights and responsibilities are, because there is a two-way street, and we want to make sure that we are working together to allow you to have a great boating experience this season. Also in here, there's a few other items like fueling balance, payments, etc. I would encourage you to explore those areas too, so that you're comfortable with understanding the data that we collect and to share with you, so that you have a real-time view of your subscription and membership. More information about the service as well. You can access customer service from here. There's also an instructions tab that gives you more information on how to use the boat and the plotter. All of this information is available to you through the app, and I do encourage you to take a few minutes to go through that before your first reservation. I'm going to stop sharing my screen at this time to continue with our main presentation. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Andrew. All right, so next slide, Andrew's going to talk about setting yourself up for success.
Yeah, I'll just continue on here with a few different things that we note that as a way to support you in your boating journey, we really want to be kind of your big brother on the water. We're not here to either scold you or to really offer a white glove service. Boating from the Skipperi perspective is meant to be an activity that you kind of enjoy and learn along the way. And that you gradually add to your toolbox of ways to become a great boater. Just as everybody else does who perhaps goes and buys a boat, we want to allow you to learn kind of on the go. That said, we do want to be your big brother, as it were, on the water to really show you and set you up for success. There's a few ways, though, that you can help set yourself up for success. And we'd like to share those with you now to really set your first reservation in particular, but all your future reservations as well, for a good time for yourself and your guests. These are not in any particular order, but first, checking the weather. Really something that's really, really important that we've noted that a lot of members are doing really well, but there are some members who perhaps aren't. And it's really something that is super important to always be on top of, especially when you're out in open water. Lake Ontario is very changeable. It's very deep and it's very large. It can be 300 feet deep in the center. It's 30 kilometers across, and it's about 200 kilometers long. So quite a large body of water. And when weather comes in and changes, unpredictable things happen, including wave heights, heavy winds, etc. So do check the weather. Get yourself a reliable weather app, like maybe Windy or the Weather Network on your phone, so that you can access real-time weather, both leading up to and during your reservation. Second, check the known issues tab. I mentioned this in the app overview. This is really important so that you know exactly the real-time state of the boat that you're reserving. We try to make every boat available for every member at all times. That said, things do happen. Damages occur, things don't work, switches break. Our boats are well used and we love that. We try to keep them both looking great and highly functional at all times. That said, we also want to make sure that we are showing you and telling you exactly what's going on with each boat that you might be reserving. So please do check the known issues tab to get a really good sense of what's going on the boat that you've reserved. If you are not comfortable or the known issues don't reflect exactly how you want to be using the boat, make sure that you cancel that reservation and book perhaps a different boat to get the experience that you'd like. Three, dock boxes. We do try to make, again, the service as seamless as possible for you. We know that we stock the boats with the standard sort of safety gear that's required, but things like life jackets don't always match exactly the numbers of people on board. As an example, we have 6 adult life jackets on every boat. 4 of them are a standard size, 2 of them are an extra large size. If you, though, have 8 adults on board, you need to have 2 additional adult life jackets. In order to accommodate your needs, we have dock boxes positioned at each of our locations to allow you to have access to additional supplies that are inside those dock boxes. You can simply call customer service and they will provide the access code for you to allow you to get at some of those additional pieces of equipment to make sure that you have all that you need on board during your journey. Additionally, if you happen to be out of equipment, if something is missing, things like anchor line or a broken mooring line or boat soap or a sponge, oftentimes we'll have those as additional equipment inside the dock boxes. So please do check in with customer service to get access to those additional pieces as you need them. Number 4 really should be number 1. This is probably our biggest, I'll call it a pain point as of last year, trimming the engine down before turning the engine on. What that means is the engine usually sits like this out of the water to allow you to get a good picture of the propeller and the skeg. Before running the engine, though, that engine should be trimmed down so that the bottom propeller is underneath the water. This will allow the engine to get the cooling water that it needs to stay cool and to stop from overheating. If the engine is turned on while the engine is trimmed up, it won't get the required cooling water and can damage some internal components. We don't want to have any downtime or any damages or any costs associated with overheating of engines. So please take extra caution and make sure that the engine is trimmed down before turning the engine on. Number 5, have a boating plan. This is something that most boating books and websites talk about, is to share a sail plan or a boating plan with your family or friends. We don't have the resources to support your boating plans, so we don't keep a copy of them at all. What we're suggesting to you, though, is that you have a plan of some sort so that you know approximately where you're going to go, when you're going to leave, when you're going to be returning, all the equipment that you might need with you. So cell phone and charge cord, drinks, sunscreen, et cetera, to make sure that you and your guests are safe and comfortable. There's nothing worse than being out on the water, being a while from home, and being uncomfortable. So having a good boating plan in place with all the required equipment will certainly help make your day that much better. Finally, saving your emergency numbers. Numbers like Skipperi customer service are really important to have on your phone, just in case. We are here to support you and we'd love to hear from you if you need something from us. So please do save that in your phone. Second, you never know when something might go wrong on the water, and hopefully it never happens to you. But we do want to make sure that you're well prepared. So saving numbers like for CTO would also be really important to do as well. I'm next going to continue on with the fueling process. People ask questions about fueling quite regularly. There's really 3 processes that we have in place, and I'll start with the most direct and straightforward one, and that is we have partnerships with many local marinas. Marinas like Bluffers Park Marina in Scarborough, the Toronto Island Marina in the Toronto Islands, as well as Hamilton Harbour West in Hamilton. At these locations, it's your responsibility to take the boat to the fueling station to refuel when you are below 50%. So when looking at the fuel gauge on each boat, you'll be able to see roughly whether the boat is above or below the half mark. If you're planning to return the boat below half, you'll need to refuel it before bringing it back to your home dock. So the process to take would be go to the closest partnership marina, Toronto Island Marina, Bluffers Park, or Hamilton Harbor West. Tie up at dock, turn the key off, turn the battery switch off, and the marina staff will fuel the boat for you. You don't need to actually get out of the boat to hold the pump. They will do that work for you. You simply pull up, dock, turn the key off. They will do their piece. Once they're finished, you won't pay anything. Skipperi pays the bill for you. The only part that you're going to pay is your consumption. So our computer system tracks exactly how much gas you consume during your trip. You'll get a bill for that within about 2 days of your reservation. So you won't be paying out of pocket for anything that you fill up in the tank. You'll only pay out of pocket for your consumption. The second method of fueling that we use are at marinas where we don't have a fueling process. These include Outer Harbor Marina and Lakefront Promenade Marina in Port Credit. At these locations, we don't have a fueling arrangement, meaning the process by which you get gas, pulling up, tying up, turning the key off, letting them fuel your boat, that doesn't change. The only main difference is we don't have an account with them at all, so you'll be paying out of pocket. And our system is set up to track a fuel balance. So if you fill up $100, you would then take a picture of the receipt in the app. The app then records that $100 as a balance that you're holding, and your fuel consumption that you're being billed for that trip will come off of that $100 until that fuel balance is paid off. So you essentially have a credit with us by putting gas in the tank. Once that credit becomes a negative balance, we'll then ask you to top up and pay for the consumption that you've used in excess of that which you fueled. The third scenario is at one of our marinas called Frenchman's Bay Marina. At Frenchman's Bay, there is no local fuel dock. The closest fuel dock is about a half-hour boat ride away at Bluffers Park. And we realize this has been a pain point for those who are boating out of Frenchman's Bay. So we have worked with the marina itself. We have staff on site who will fuel the boats for you so that you don't have to have the added stress of trying to find a way to fuel those boats. They will, in 99% of the cases, be fueled before your reservations and kept topped up throughout the season so that you don't need to stress or worry about gas there. The bottom part of this slide is a really important piece, and I just want to walk through some of the fuel costs. Fuel consumption, of course, will vary based on a number of different factors. Everything from weather, water and wave condition, how fast you're going, how far you're going, the type of boat, the styling of the bow, the number of people that you have on board, all those different things will affect your fuel consumption. The average that we found over time is about 10 liters of gas per hour is what a Yamaha 150 horsepower engine will burn. You'll also note that that is significantly higher than a car engine. Typical car engines burn quite a bit less. So do be prepared that a marine engine, even brand new four-stroke, four-cylinder engines do burn quite a bit of gas when compared to a standard car of the same age. And we bill per the member agreement at $2.65 a liter. You may ask why that price, and the answer is we're using premium marine grade ethanol-free fuel. The ethanol component is really important in that it is a destructor of marine engines. It's not good in a marine environment, especially in boats that are stored for many months of the season or many months of the year on land. So we have to have a premium grade fuel that's used, and the standard rate that we've applied is $2.65 per liter. The last point on this slide is please be mindful of fuel dock hours, especially later in the season into the fall. The fuel dock hours will begin to be slowly reduced with sunlight or daylight. So if you are going out after daylight hours, you may find the fuel dock is closed, which may also impact your ability to get fuel in order to keep the fuel tank above 50%. Once again, we understand we're all human and fuel dock hours will change, but please be considerate of those who are also in the Skipperi program and make sure that you're doing your part to fuel appropriately. This may mean as soon as you arrive, going to get gas first before before going on your trip, rather than waiting till the end of your reservation. And it may mean, if you want to be a good neighbor, and we'd love for you to be a good neighbor, fueling every single time you take a boat out, just to make sure that the fuel tanks are topped up as much as possible. It's never a bad thing to add more gas. We'd rather have that than be short on fuel. A few tips and tricks, in addition to some of the things that I've mentioned already, to help manage your fuel costs. Weight reduction is really important, and I don't mean only bring two friends. What I mean is there's other ways that weight can be carried in a boat, and one of those is water in the bilge. So the bilge is the lowest part of the boat, and inside the bilge there's a pump, and that pump pumps excess water overboard. Often after a heavy rainstorm, water can collect in the bilge, which means before you depart dock, always make sure you either check the bilge or turn the bilge pump on, and I'll show you how to do that in a few minutes, to pump that excess water overboard. There have been a couple of occasions last year where people were trying to go boating with a full group of friends, and they had difficulty trying to get up to speed, and they found after troubleshooting a bit that the bilge was full of water, and they weren't able to go boating the way that they really wanted to enjoy it. But it was simply a matter of emptying that bilge. So do make sure that you're aware of any extra weight that you're carrying in the form of excess water, which can happen. Weight distribution is another good piece. Putting all your friends at the back of the boat can make the boat sit really high in the water and lift the bow out of the water, which means that the engine's working that much harder to push the boat forward. So do make sure that your friends are distributed amongst the benches on the boat. Your speed has a huge factor on fuel consumption. As you can imagine, the faster you go, the more the engine has to work, which means more fuel is consumed. So feel free to take the boat, especially in areas that it's safe to do so, as fast as you'd like. We'd love to see you enjoying the boats, but do make sure that you're conscious of the fuel cost that will result at the end of that. Similarly, distance, the farther you go, the more you're going to burn. So if you're on a bit of a budget cruise that day, make sure that you're watching how far you're traveling. And finally, the trim level. I mentioned earlier about trimming the engine all the way down before departing dock. That always stays pretty true. You want to leave the engine all the way down in the water. That'll give you not only the cooling for the engine, but also the best fuel consumption for the engine. The only time that the engine should be raised up out of the water, raised up in the water, should be when you're in very shallow areas and you want to avoid scraping the skeg along the water bottom. You can trim up a little bit then in order to avoid those shallow spots. But in general, it should be trimmed all the way down so that you get the best fuel consumption. I'll pass over to Emily now to describe a bit more about the Destinations tab.
Thanks, Andrew. I'm going to dive a bit further into the Destinations tab now, which is the fourth tab in the bottom row of the Skipperi app. The Destinations tab will give you inspiration on where you can visit near each of our Hop on Board locations. The Destinations tab includes locations such as beaches, fishing spots, restaurants with Skipperi exclusive discounts, places to moor the boat, pick up your friends, and more. Pictures of the destinations and features are shown so you can see what activities are available, along with descriptions of the area and any instructions needed for the area posted in the guidebook. We update this throughout the season as we come across more places to explore, so keep checking back for more. If you visited a destination that's not in the tab, you can add it yourself as well using the blue Add a Destination button at the top of the screen. This will give you the option to add a location, name it yourself, and add photos that you've taken. You can post publicly as well in the guidebook section if you'd like to talk about your experience visiting one of the locations. I'll pass back over to Andrew now to wrap up the onboarding overview.
Awesome. Thanks, Emily. So the next slide, we'll talk about the equipment maps on board. The equipment maps are found in the Ahoy section of the app, and really it's a reference piece to allow you to see exactly where everything's located on board each boat. Everything from life jackets to the anchor to switches to ignition to radio are all listed in the equipment maps. We try to keep every location of all the safety items, etc., the same across our entire fleet. There are some small subtle differences, and if you're wondering where something is that you can't find, it will be listed on this equipment map found in the Ahoy section. To the right side of this diagram, you'll notice that a boat is next to a dock and there are 3 lines tying the boat. This is again a reference point for you to keep handy so that if you're wondering how to tie up the boat appropriately at the end of your reservation, this is your reference tool to use to make sure that you're doing it correctly. We will show you more thoroughly during the practical training section how to tie up the boat and how to tie a cleat hitch appropriately to keep that boat nice and secured. But this is your reference point if you happen to forget how to appropriately tie the boat securely. You'll note 3 lines. The bow line keeps the boat from going backwards and away from dock. The spring line stops the boat from going forward and away from dock. And the stern line, again, stops the boat from going forward and away from dock. 3 different points that stop it from going any which way. The boat can't twist or turn or shift or go forward or backward. It's completely secured with those 3 lines. And it's really important to make sure that that the boat is left secure after your reservation. And if you're stopping somewhere during your reservation, to make sure that it both stays in good repair, that you're not incurring any damages, but also so that it is safe and doesn't drift away anywhere.
Andrew, can I, let's say I book a boat in Hamilton and I want to visit one of the Skipperi locations in Toronto. Can I just dock my Hamilton boat in Toronto?
That's a great question. The short answer is no. The longer answer is a bit more complicated. Let me start with the short answer. We have 40 Skipperi boats at all of our locations total, and each boat has a designated dock space or a home port. So the Hamilton boats all belong in Hamilton. You may wonder if there's a Skipperi dock in Toronto where the Skipperi boat in Toronto is already out, could I dock there for a few minutes, or could I dock there while I go have lunch or dinner? And the answer really is no, because that boat that belongs in the dock in Toronto could be returning anytime. And if you're in their space, they then have nowhere to go. So in the interest of being a good member shared neighbor, we ask you only to dock at the home port where you originated from. That said, there are a number of yacht clubs, marinas, restaurants, and other waterfront businesses that will offer docks for boats. Part of the boating etiquette is to call ahead and ask. There is nowhere that I'm aware of where pulling up unannounced is appreciated. We want to make sure that we're calling in advance, checking to see if they have visitor spaces. And in most cases, I'd say 99% of the time, you're going to get a yes. So if you wanted to say dock at the National Yacht Club, you can call the National Yacht Club in advance and say, I'm planning to bring a Skipperi boat to the club to visit a friend. Would I be able to dock in your visitor dock for the evening? Chances are they're going to say yes. So please be a good boater with good etiquette and call ahead. Most clubs, marinas, restaurants, other amenities on the water would be happy to host you.
Thanks, Andrew. And what happens if I come back to dock and my spot is taken, or I see another Skipperi boat docked in, essentially docked the wrong way, which means I have to either pull my lines to the other side. How should I manage a situation like this?
Another great question. So first is be aware that things do happen and people do dock in the wrong spot sometimes, often unintentionally or often without realizing their impact on other people. So first of all, stay calm. Second, you may want to make a phone call to customer service if it's during customer service hours. There may be a reason why a Skipperi boat is there. It may be that staff are moving boats around or staff are around the corner and unaware of your return. So please do get in touch with us to let us know that there's an issue. If a boat, though, is docked perhaps on leaving you with no space to dock when your lines are on one side. So as an example, the boat in the diagram on the screen right now shows lines on the starboard side or the right-hand side of the boat. There may not be any dock spaces left on the starboard side, which may mean you need to dock on the port side, which in turn means you would need to remove the lines from the starboard side of the boat, tie them off on the port side of the boat, and then dock on the port side. For some, this is very common practice and very easy. For others, this is completely foreign. It's not something that we are used to doing, but that is the correct boating etiquette. When you're docking on the opposite side that you're set up to dock on, you would need to move both lines and fenders to the other side to dock safely and appropriately on that side. One thing not to do is leave the lines in place and stretch them across the boat. That doesn't leave the boat in a safe position. It'll allow the boat to rub against the dock, potentially causing damage. Also rock, shift, and twist against the dock, which can leave the boat in a very unstable and unsafe way. So please make sure that you are shifting lines appropriately and making sure that the boat is fully secured.
Thanks, Andrew. And just to make sure that you guys are prepared for your practical training coming up, Andrew will now cover the helm, switches, and gauges that we have on our vessels.
Awesome, thank you. So the screen, the diagrams, I should say, on the screen are actual photos of our boats. So the left-hand picture is a picture of all of the switches that you'll find on every boat. They're all essentially the same. The top row includes, from left to right, the nav anch light. This is the navigation and anchor light. Pushing that switch in the up position turns on the navigating lights, which is a red light to the port side, a green light to the starboard side, and a white light at the stern. And that light shows other boats around you that you're moving through the water. So whenever you're traveling through the water after the hours of sunset, you need to make sure you have your navigating lights on. The down position of that switch turns on the anchor light, which is only the white light at the back. This indicates that you're stopped in the water, that you're at anchor, and that you're not moving through the water, but that you're there. So it tells other boats that there's something ahead of me. I need to watch out for that, but they're not moving through the water. So please do make sure that you're using those lights appropriately, and they are all on board functional for you to use. The next switch to the right of the nav anch light is the courtesy light. These are blue lights that are inside the boat that allow you to see the floor and deck around you. They're blue in color on purpose. It allows you to see everything around you without losing your night vision. So you can look down at the floor to see what's going on, but also look up and not lose night vision and the inability to see other lights around you or other vessels around you. The next light is called the dock lights. This is a really interesting one. Dock lights are meant to be almost like headlights on a boat, and they allow you to see a dock as you're approaching it in the pitch darkness. The problem with them, though, is number one, many people assume that headlights on a boat are the same as headlights on a car, and you should have them on all the time so you can see the water ahead of you. That's not the case on a boat. You're not supposed to have headlights on. You're only supposed to have navigating lights on, and the lights on a boat are only meant for other people to see where you are. It's not meant to see a spotlight or headlight ahead of you. And all the ambient light in all of our locations is much too high to make the dock lights worthwhile when trying to approach a dock. They won't help you to dock at all. So please just leave these dock lights off. In fact, there's been a few members who have driven around last year with dock lights on, thinking that they are appropriate headlights to be using, and all they end up doing is blinding other boaters. So please do make sure that you're turning those dock lights off or keeping them off while you're out at night. The next switch is the horn. This is a sound signaling appliance that allows you to indicate to other boats that you're there. On the bottom row, the first switch is the bilge pump switch. This allows you to turn the bilge pump on to pump water overboard. Our boats also have a bilge pump that operates on a float. So as the water level in the bilge rises, the float will turn the pump on, which pumps water overboard. The float then drops as the water lowers, and the pump turns off by itself. If you need to, though, turn the bilge pump on manually, you can do that using this bilge pump switch. The next switch is the radio switch. This gives power to a separate radio unit, which sits above this panel. And the radio is a great device on our boats, quite a nice sound system. It allows you to operate music through your cell phone by Bluetooth. Also has an AM, FM radio and a weather band. So do enjoy playing some tunes on board. The live well and accessory switches, which are to the right of the radio switch, are not used on our boats. So please just leave those guys off. The upper rubber booted item below that rubber boot is a USB port for charging cell phones. There are 2 USB ports here, and there are 2 near the glove box on each boat as well, giving you a total of 4 USB ports to charge phones or other devices. And below that is the ignition key. The key you can see is in the switch right now, and it has 3 positions. Straight up and down means that the key is in, but nothing's on. The position it's in right now, slightly to the right, is the accessory position, meaning it's giving power to the switches, to the plotter, but without turning the engine itself on. And the final switch, just like a car, you turn the key a bit more to the right to engage the engine itself and to get it running. Again, make sure that the engine's trimmed down before the key is turned on. Nothing stops the engine from starting if the engine's up. You need to visually look back at the engine to confirm that it's dropped down into the water. The picture now to the right on the screen is the left panel of the plotter screen, which is the main computer at the helm. Most boats have gauges like a car, showing things like fuel level, trim level, speed, RPM, etc. We've replaced all those gauges with one single screen, and the left column of that screen shows the following information. The top box shows the trim level. Right now, that trim level shows 125, which means 125%, meaning it's all the way up out of the water. If you push the down trim button at the helm, it'll drop the engine into the water to make sure it's getting all the cooling that it needs, as well as having the propeller below the water surface, allowing you to move the boat. The next box says speed. It shows 0 kn, which is 0 knots. 1 knot is about 1.8 kilometers per hour, so almost 2 kilometers an hour. We always measure speed, though, on boats in knots. The next box shows current trip. So once the key is turned on, the counters begin counting. It'll show a fuel consumption, which is the left piece. The middle piece shows how long the key's been on, and the right section shows how far you've traveled. So you can monitor through having a current trip with the key on exactly how much gas you've burned through, how far you've traveled, and how long you've been traveling to get a good sense of your total trip values. Below that is a consumption bar, which shows you exactly how many liters per hour you're burning based on the current conditions. So if you were traveling at full speed, into the wind, into waves, you're going to burn a lot more gas than if you were going with the waves at a much lower speed. So this will give you a good sense of how much gas you're burning at any one time, and will allow you to have the chance to monitor your fuel consumption over your trip. Below that is the fuel level. You'll notice 10 bars across the entire gauge. There are 7 bars that are right now highlighted white, which means 7 out of 10, 70% gas right now in this particular tank. When that tank drops below 50%, you would need to go get more gas at the local marina before bringing it back to end your reservation. A note on the fuel level, the boat sits on the water and obviously moves around with the water. Similarly, the gas inside the gas tank is also sloshing around inside the gas tank along with the movement of the boat. The fuel level is being measured by a float that sits on top of that gas. So as the gas sloshes around in the tank, the fuel float drops up and down. As well, when you first start moving through the water, the bow lifts up on the boat, which means that the gas runs to the back of the tank. The back of the tank is where the float sits, which means when you're driving through the water, the fuel level shows higher than it does when you're sitting still in the water. So always make sure that you're taking a gauge of your fuel level when you're sitting still in the water in a calm state, the boat's not moving around very much, so that you can get a good sense of how much gas you actually have. I've been caught myself thinking that I had 90% tank, and I slowed down and stopped and realized I only had 40% of a tank. So please do make sure that you are checking that when you're slow or stopped and in calm water. The second last box shows engine hours. That's more for me than for you. It allows me to gauge how much the engine's been used and when to get oil changes. And the final box, not showing in the picture, but it's a compass to show you northeast, southwest to allow you to navigate that way in addition to the main plotter. And this screen will then show you more depictions of the main plotter. So the picture on the left is a blown out view of the last photo that we saw, the engine information along the left-hand column. The main screen or the main picture on the plotter screen shows a navigation tool. This is a navigational chart, and it works almost like an iPad. You can zoom in and zoom out with your fingertips. You can scroll back and forth using your fingers. You can even hold a particular point on the map, and it will allow you to navigate toward that particular point. So if you wanted to go from Toronto to Scarborough, you can scroll over to Scarborough, hold a point on the plotter, and it will then guide you there through all the different navigational markers. All you need to do is keep the boat on the line that it draws for you, and it will navigate you there safely. Keep in mind, Just like Siri in your car, make sure you don't trust it completely. Make sure you're using your eyes and your ears to navigate safely through the water. There's things like debris and other boats and traffic and swimmers and kayakers, all of which you need to be mindful of. You can't just follow the GPS trail, but it's a great tool to help you navigate over long distances. The picture to the right is a blown-in view of, or zoomed-in view of the navigation screen, showing you a bit more information. The black dot on the upper shore is where the boat is sitting right now. The red dots show Skipperi locations. And along the bottom of the picture, there's a small gasoline tank icon. This is the Toronto Island Marina, where there's a fuel station. So we've marked for you on all the plotters where Skipperi locations are, as well as where local fuel stations are, so that you're able to navigate pretty quickly between locations and between where you are now and the local fuel spot. Hopefully this will help you to have ease and comfort when you're out there, and so that you can see easily where you're going and where you should be heading to. One other piece to the plotter is the geofencing technology that we have. We geofence areas that we know are kind of problematic. So areas like speed zones, keep out zones, areas where there's a speed limit, we geofence those. And what that really means is any area where you are operating the boat in a way that contradicts the rules that we've set, it'll show a banner across the top of the screen, a bright red banner indicating what the rule actually is. So in Toronto Harbor, there are 2 areas of speed zone. Within 150 meters of shore, the speed limit is 5 knots. Outside of 150 meters of shore, the speed limit's 10 knots. So if you're traveling in the middle of the Toronto Harbor, away from shore at 11 knots, the plotter will identify that you're traveling too fast and will show a banner across the screen indicating that you should slow down. Similarly, in the channels of the Toronto Islands, these areas are no wake zones, meaning that you should not be producing a wave behind the boat. And the plotter identifies when you're going too fast and asks you to slow down to be within the no wake rules. We also geofence areas like low bridges. We geofence river mouths because that's where debris and logs can collect, which could cause damage to the boat. So we go a little bit beyond kind of speed rules, and we also identify areas that could be hazards and we want you to stay away from to sort of protect yourself. We also recognize very clearly that water levels change throughout the season. In the springtime, water level is quite high. In the fall, water levels are quite low. So as an example, there are a number of bridges in the Toronto Islands that are not accessible at all in the spring, but that are clear to travel under in the fall. Similarly, there are areas in the spring that are not shallow at all, but by September, they are quite shallow and far too shallow for our boats to access. So please be mindful of the areas that you're traveling within. Please make sure that you're using your eyes and your ears and common sense, not just the screen and not just relying on the geofencing rules, but those rules are in place to help keep everyone safe. Now we're going to move on to in-person boat handling training. This is a 2-hour session where we invite groups up to 4 to attend on our boats with a approved trainer, and they walk you through a number of different pieces. And this slide will show you all the different items on the syllabus. Really what we're trying to achieve is the idea of making you confident and comfortable at the end of training to take your family and your friends out boating. And we get there by showing you how the boat works, how to install the different pieces, how the parts move, how to adjust the seat, how to adjust the bimini top, how to install the stern light. But beyond that, how to handle the boat. So what do you watch for when you're pulling away? How do you physically turn the engine on and put the throttle into reverse to pull away from dock? What are the right-of-way rules? How do you drive in a straight line? How do you drive in a circle? How does speed affect the diameter of the circle that you create? How do you do figure eights? How do you maneuver in close quarters? How do you then dock the boat and then tie the lines? These are all things that we want to show you and teach you so that you're super comfortable. And at the end of that in-person training, your instructor will probably turn to you and say, do you feel comfortable taking out your children, your mom, your spouse? And if you say yes and your instructor says yes, you're good to go. There's no pass or fail. It's a matter of judgment. If you say, no, I'm not comfortable, and your instructor says, you know what, I think you are. Your instructor may encourage you to try it a couple times, to take the boat out on your own or with a friend, to practice a bit more, to get a bit more familiarity and comfortability. If you come back though and say, yep, I'm ready, and your instructor says no, well, that's a no. And that means we need to reschedule a second session so that you can get comfortable. There's no charge to those sessions at all. We're not here to make money off of training. We are, though, here to make sure that you are safe, confident, comfortable, which in turn leads to less accidents, less concerns, less behavior issues, and everyone gets a chance to go boating in a great way to enjoy the season. We do and will have paid practical training sessions available later in the season. I would guess around end of May, we'll begin posting about the availability of paid practical training for those who want a little bit extra. If you've passed practical training, but you want to practice something else in particular, maybe rough weather boating or how to anchor, or you just want some more docking practice, or you'd like to have your spouse trained to help you with pulling in and out of dock, we'd be happy to do that. There'll be $199 per 2-hour session fees, and that will be available again at the end of May. Speaking of availability, this is the practical training calendar. We have our website link already available, and we've just sent out an email with a link again to our training calendar to allow you to begin booking training sessions for beginning April 15th to get you on the water for May 1st. Training sessions will be available throughout that period and beyond into May, June, July, and the rest of the season. To allow everybody who joins us to have a chance to have a good training session, to also meet your scheduling needs. So we will have daytime, morning, afternoon, selected evenings, selected weekends available. It is first come, first served. And a couple of notes on this: please do make sure when you're booking that you're only booking one slot at a time. If you need to cancel and reschedule, you're welcome to, but please just book one slot so that everyone has a chance to get a good training session. Second, please just make sure that you are showing up on time, ready to learn and to make the most of the session. We have very limited time to impart all the information that we need, and the more time we stay focused means more time that people have a chance to practice at the helm, to get really comfortable with a trainer on board, asking all the questions that they want to ask. This is their one real shot to be able to do that. So we'd like to make sure that that we make the most of that time. So please come ready to learn. And finally, if you're late or if you don't show up to a training session, we do reserve the right to bill a no-show fee, which will be detailed to you in the email with respect to booking practical trainings. All we ask is that you're please respectful of trainers' time as well as your fellow members' times to make the most of this great training. There's a second permit that is available and required for those who boat within the waters of the Port of Toronto. The Port of Toronto is an interesting place. There's nothing like it in the world, in that there is commercial shipping that happens here. There are a number of yacht clubs and marinas that operate out of the Toronto harbor. There are canoes, kayaks, beaches, ferries, an airport. All these different aspects make it a very busy harbor. And there are specialized rules that are instituted in the harbor, including speed limits, ferry zones, anchoring zones, swimming rules, right-of-way rules, etc., that are all different from anywhere else in the world. And the Port of Toronto has a permit called the PVOP, the Power Vessel Operator's Permit, that they require any boat that operates within the Port of Toronto to have. And we have been granted the ability to provide these permits. So we offer a 2-hour session, partly in class, partly on board, where we run through all of those rules and outline why it's so important to have those rules. At the end of that in-class portion, there is a written test, followed by a practical portion to confirm that you are comfortable handling a vessel within the Port of Toronto. There is a $35 per person fee for this permit. You don't have to go through Skipperi for the permit. You can also contact the Port Toronto office. They have an on-site training site at the Outer Harbor Marina. You're welcome to do your course there as well. The requirement that we have is to ensure that our members who are using boats out of Toronto or in the Toronto Harbor will have this permit. So we also have the ability to offer it in-house if you choose to do that with us. A few really important pieces to kind of highlight in terms of, we call it member accountability. There are a few aspects to member sharing that are different from anywhere else in the world. So this slide will go through some of those member accountability issues.
Thanks, Andrew. So first we have cleaning. We found that member enjoyment is highly dependent on the boat being clean during a reservation. As everyone has a different perspective on what's considered a clean boat, we have an Ahoy post in the app that will be active during the season that shows guidelines on cleaning so that the boat stays in good condition for everyone. Next is stale and cancel reservations. A stale reservation is when a member makes a reservation but does not show up or cancel the reservation. If we didn't have any stale reservations, it would be the equivalent of adding 3.4 additional boats to the service. Our app is live, so when you cancel a reservation, it opens up the ability for another member to book the boat. If you know you won't be going boating or you reach the dock and can't experience a safe boating condition due to weather or waves, please cancel the reservation so someone else is able to book. Being upfront about damages is important. If you arrive to the boat that has damages or you cause damage during a reservation, you can report it before or after your reservation by using the Report a Problem button on the app. If the damage is severe or may affect the next member's usability of the boat, give us a call as soon as it takes place so we can follow up appropriately. We ask that members fuel the boat if the fuel level reaches 50% or less during a reservation, or if you're not able to get an accurate fuel reading. Fuel measurements should always be taken when the boat is at rest in calm water, so it's accurate. The process is important to make sure the next member has enough fuel to go boating on their reservation, and if you're not able to fuel the boat for any reason, report it in the app when checking out to let us know. The Toronto Harbour, shorelines, marinas, and more have speed limits to protect other boats, docks, and wildlife from boat wake. So please be aware and respectful of speed limits in the areas you're boating in and of no wake zones. The plotter will remind you to stay slow in areas where there are speed limits or in areas where you should not produce a wake. However, it doesn't control the boat for you, so you're still responsible for the boat's speed at all times. When boating, it's common to take fenders on and off the boat so they don't hit the water. Before you return to the dock, please just remember to replace 3 fenders on the docking side and 2 on the non-docking side. This is important to prevent damage being done to the boats by rubbing or hitting the dock or other boats once docked. There should be enough fenders on each boat to do this, but if you ever find some are missing, please report it in the app for us to replace them. When docking the boat, please ensure that the bow line, stern line, and spring line are all tied tight so that the boat remains tight to the dock and doesn't come undone. If you ever feel like you need more instruction on how to do this, send an email to customerservice@skipperi.ca, and we would be happy to arrange for someone to meet you at the docks before your next reservation to show you how to do it. Our 2-week auto acceptance is in relation to wanting to get everyone out on the water as soon as possible. In the interest of this, your membership will be accepted 2 weeks from the date you sign up to the service so you can enjoy the service quickly. Your responsibility will to be completing your onboarding and practical training if you have less than 3 years of experience. And we're happy to help you with any questions you have during this time by emailing us at customerservice@skipperi.ca or calling 877-467-1884. Once your membership is accepted, your first prorated payment monthly membership fee will go out.
In regards to the substance-free policy, note that this is not a Skipperi policy, but a policy under your pleasure craft operator card, so your boater's license, that is based on the Canada Shipping Act, Section 208-121, that mentions that no person may be allowed on board a vessel if there are reasonable grounds to believe that their faculties are impaired by alcohol or a drug to an extent that they might present a hazard to the vessel or to the persons on board. So in a nutshell, this is our member accountability kind of guidebook. On the right-hand side of the screen, you are seeing a basically what you will see at the end of your reservation. So how likely would you recommend the service to your friends? Emily, would you mind giving a bit of context to our members in relation to the number of stars they are giving us and what they can expect if they had a good experience or if they did not have a good experience on the water?
Absolutely. So this is called an NPS score and is shown to everyone at the end of their reservation. So between 1 out of 10 stars, it's showing how much you enjoyed yourself. This is in relation to things that we can fix in the service and not in relation to, for example, bad weather or bad waves. If you give us a score of 7 or less, we'll give you a call to chat about it. And if you give us a score of 8 or above, then we won't. If you have any feedback, you don't need to wait to go on a reservation. You can always send us an email or call us at customer service.
Amazing. Thank you, Emily. And if you have any questions on this process, please feel free again to reach out to our customer service team. Next, we will talk about boaters etiquette. Andrew will bring us through some of the elements that will allow you to be a good boater, to be perceived as a good boater, a good neighbor, and also a good Skipperi member. So, Andrew, take it away.
Thanks, Kevin. So one of the things that we kind of take for granted, especially those of us who have been boating for a long time, is we sort of know the right way and the wrong way to do things. But we also recognize that there are many people joining our service who have no idea. They're brand new to boating and they don't really know what the right thing is to do in certain circumstances. We often talk about things like, well, do good boating practice, or do the things that you see other boaters perhaps doing, without really understanding the etiquette behind it. So this list kind of are the top tier items of ways that you can improve your own boater's etiquette, to give both yourself, your perception, people's perception of you as a boater, but also the Skipperi brand, which is plastered on the side of every boat that is in our fleet, will increase the level that people perceive us at. And we want you to feel really good about the etiquette that you are presenting and the type of boater that you are being. So first of all, respecting no wake zones. A wake is the wave that's thrown off the back of the boat. So as the boat moves through the water, the front of the boat pushes the water to each side, and it creates a wave off of the side of the boat or the bow of the boat. And that wave is called a wake. Any area like protected shorelines, near other boats, near docks, near infrastructure, typically within about 50 feet or so of any sort of shoreline, is considered a no wake zone. There are explicit no wake zones, areas where there's a sign saying no wake, and there are inexplicit no wake zones, meaning about 50 feet from any sort of shore or any other boat. You don't want to be throwing a wake near shorelines of, say, the Toronto Islands, near swimmers, near canoers or kayakers. They can upset other boats in terms of tipping them over. They can erode shorelines. They can make other boats rock against other docks. And as the person creating the wake, you are ultimately responsible, both environmentally, procedurally, and legally, for any damage that's caused by the wake that you create. As an example, if you fire past another boat at dock and that boat bangs up against the dock they're sitting at, the owner of the other boat could potentially come after you legally for damage to their boat. We don't want to get into any situation like that, of course. You don't want to either. So please do respect any sort of no wake zone, whether it's explicit or otherwise. Second, speed limits. There are many areas where there is a posted speed limit. The prime example is the Toronto Harbor. Within 150 meters of shore or 500 feet from shore, the speed limit is 5 knots. Outside of 500 feet from shore, the speed limit is 10 knots. And any real shoreline along Lake Ontario within 500 feet of shore will be about 5 knots. And that's intended to keep other boaters, swimmers, canoers, kayakers, shorelines all safe from excess damage or concerns by overspeeding. So please do be aware of posted speed limits as well as those that are implicit. Mindful of other boaters. This is a really important part, especially at night. It does take a while, as a new boater especially, to get used to the lights that you see, especially with the backscatter of the city skyline, to see what other boats are out there. The Toronto Harbor, again, as a good example, will have canoers and kayakers. Please be mindful of the other boats that are around you. Please be mindful of your right of way. If you need a refresher on right-of-way rules, I would encourage you to take a look at your Safe Boating Guide, which is the study guide for the PCOC, which will describe in more detail exactly who has right-of-way in different situations. We'd be happy to help support you, but please do start with taking a look at the right-of-way rules to understand exactly when you have right-of-way, when another boat has right-of-way, and what your responsibilities are in each circumstance to make sure that you are being a good boater with respect to other boaters on the water. Supporting other members at dock. This is a really important one. We're all at different levels of skill and experience. There are many people who are very nervous coming into dock. So whenever you see someone coming in perhaps behind you, or when you're at dock as well, offering to lend a hand. Not everyone will take it. Not everybody wants an extra set of hands. Some people want to practice on their own or get used to docking on their own, but others would really appreciate having that extra set of hands, or even some guidance. Turn the wheel this way, slow down, throw me the rope, whatever it might be to sort of help and assist. I would encourage you always to ask permission first before you start giving unsolicited advice. Just again, being a respectful neighbor, but supporting other members at dock can always be a really important part of our service. We want other members at Skipperi to feel that they're being supported by everyone, including staff and other members. Sharing the load. Really, this comes to sharing the load for fueling and for cleaning and for the other member shared accountability pieces. We've talked a lot about the member agreement and your accountability under that agreement, but really the accountability is to each other. My experience when I'm renting a boat or reserving a boat is dependent on how the last person who was aboard treated the boat. So the cleaner the boat is when I arrive means my experience is that much better, which in turn means I'm going to offer the next person a good experience as well by making sure that I'm cleaning and fueling and being respectful of tying lines appropriately, etc., to make sure that we can all have a great time on the water. We're able to keep our costs, our administrative costs, our staff costs low because we are not a white glove service. We're not meant to be a white glove service. We're meant to be a member shared service, which means we all need to share that load. I mentioned right-of-way rules a little bit earlier, but again, super important to make sure that you understand both practically as well as legally how to avoid having a collision on the water. We want everyone to be safe, yourself as well as other boaters. So please do make sure that you're aware of those right-of-way rules and what your actions should be to take in certain circumstances. And on that same note, showing appropriate lights. I mentioned earlier to not use things like dock lights, but to instead to make sure that your navigation lights are being used appropriately so that other boats can see which direction you're heading, how fast you're moving, etc., by showing the red and green port and starboard light as well as the white stern light. Respect, really important piece, both for our neighbors, our partners, and also our staff. We will have staff on site, in and out throughout the season, working on the boats, around the boats, at each location. You'll see us. We'll see you. We'll be happy to give a hand, to wave hello, and we'll be happy to show you a great amount of respect for being part of our program. We love that you're joining us. We'd appreciate that same respect back, of course, but that goes further to include neighbors and partners. We have neighbors that we are leasing space from in order to offer our dock spaces to you. So if you would like to stay at the locations that you're enjoying, we need to make sure that we have great relationships. This also includes partners like our fuel dock partners, restaurant partners, etc. Once again, there's a Skipperi billboard on the side of every boat. They all know when a Skipperi boat is there. And in many cases, it's pretty easy to identify who was aboard which boat when. We don't want to have to track you down to have a conversation about respect. We'd like you to show that respect first and foremost, and we never want to have a conversation about it. Rather, we'd love to hear from our partners and neighbors how respectful everyone at Skipperi really is. So thank you for taking that extra effort to make sure that it's given. Along with that comes responsibility to your guests, or of your guests, I'm sorry. You are the member. You are the captain of the boat. You are ultimately responsible for everything that happens on board. You are responsible for the safety of the boat, the safety of your guests, the safety of those people who are around your boat, and also responsible for your guests' actions, which means we talked about substance abuse policy a couple slides ago. You are responsible that your guests also respect that policy, both the law as well as the Skipperi policy. You're also responsible to ensure that your guests are respectful of staff, neighbors, and partners. So please do make sure that you are explaining some of those things to your guests before they arrive on our docks or on our boats to make sure that we are all staying with a great reputation. Planning ahead is the final piece. I mentioned earlier in one of the slides a few minutes ago about having a boating plan or a safety plan, planning ahead for all conditions. So planning ahead for the weather, making sure you have the right clothing on. If it's colder weather's coming in, you need to make sure you have sweaters and jackets. It's always colder on the water than it is in the city, so make sure that you're planning ahead for your own comfort. Having things like water and sunscreen, life jackets, all those different pieces to make sure that you're enjoying your time on board. We can't do that for you, unfortunately. We do our very best to give you all the tools that you need to have a great time, but part of that, of course, rests on you. And with every boater, anybody who's enjoying time on the water needs to plan ahead. So part of this boater's etiquette piece really is to make sure that you are thinking about how your day is going to go and making sure that you have all the tools in your toolbox to make that day a great one.
Next, I'm going to go over a flowchart that details the best contact to get assistance for different operations and customer service inquiries, so we can get you help as quickly as possible. Please note not to bother staff or marinas about service or reservations. Always contact us. If your reservation is not related to an active reservation, such as membership upgrade request, it's best to email our customer service or call between the hours of 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday. If you're on the water having an operational boat issue, such as the boat not starting, call our customer service number from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. If you're having a general reservation issue impacting an active reservation, such as issues with the app, again, call our customer service number from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. Finally, while this has never happened with Skipperi, if you're on the water in a life-threatening situation, you can call 911 or CETO, whose contact information is in our app, along with other emergency procedures and safe boating practices that's listed in an ahoy during the season.
Thanks, Emily. Andrew, maybe would you mind just giving a bit of clarity on the process with CETO? So let's talk about a specific scenario. Let's say you forget to, there's basically a line just in the water, it gets caught in the propeller, the engine stops, and then you're unfortunately stuck in the middle of the water. Not an emergency situation in terms of no one is, there is no personal issues other than the actual vessel, but obviously something that we need to solve. So what would be the process with CETO, and what can our members expect from that entire process?
Great question. So I guess there's really three elements, and you touched on a couple of them already. First is if we're available to assist you, so if this happens during customer service hours from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., we'd be happy to discuss the issue with you first and help you to make a decision about what to do next. The second element here really is, once again, this service is not white glove. It's meant to be almost like owning your own boat without owning your own boat. So if you had your own boat, what would you do? And that's the mind frame we want you to approach situations like this with. So if you had your own boat out on the water, and as Kevin's just described, you have a line caught around the prop, how would you get back to shore? We want you to think that way. That said, we're also here to support you. If this issue took place after 8 p.m., say it was 2 in the morning for whatever reason, what would you do to solve this? And the answer really is utilizing CETO. And we recognize that that's the best way to get you back to shore safely. The other element that Kevin mentioned is confirming that this is not life-threatening, the boat's not sinking, nobody's hurt. If there was a boat sinking issue, knock on wood, and no one is hurt, or someone were hurt on board for whatever reason, we want you to call 911. Obviously, people on board and their health is the most important piece, followed by we want the boat to be staying on top of the water, not below it. So please do make sure that you're calling 911 appropriately. That said, after 8 p.m., the boat is okay, the people on board are okay. We're looking now at a CETO call. And the relationship that we've set up with CETO is meant to make things very, very simple. We want to get you back to shore. We recognize that that's a pretty stressful situation to be in, especially late hours of the evening. So please do call CITO. They will come and get you. There's often a wait period. So do make sure that you're prepared for a wait, which is why we also encourage you to plan ahead with jackets and water and those sorts of things so that you can withstand the wait, because they need to call out one of their captains. The captain will then come to meet you and will then take you back to the nearest port. But there is a delay. So be prepared for that. Once they arrive, they will confirm that you are a Skipperi boat. They will take you back to shore. You will then be able to get your things together and head back home. We'll deal with the rest the next day. You won't be charged on site. We have an arrangement with CITO already so that Skipperi will receive the bill. After everything is said and done, once you're home, once you're safe, once the boat's safe, the next day we'll then have a conversation to figure out what the costs look like and how the issue really transpired. So in the event of a line falling in the water and being wrapped around the prop, in most cases, that would be the responsibility of the member on board, because they let the line fall in the water. There's no way that Skipperi could control that. That said, if there was a different scenario where, say, there was a mechanical failure, perhaps there was some issue with the engine for whatever reason, if it is a Skipperi issue, we'll pay all the costs. No worries there at all. If it is an issue that involving the maybe the member not taking the correct steps or taking the, I'll say, the right accountability to avoid issues, we may share some costs or divide the costs in some way so that things are equitable.
Thanks, Andrew. We'll now pass it over to Emily to talk about how our new payment system works with Stripe.
Thanks, Kevin. So membership invoices will go out on the first of the month beginning in May, and fuel invoices are typically billed 1 to 3 days after your reservation ends. All invoices are sent to the payment method we have on file, which can be changed on your Stripe profile with the link on our website. If an invoice is missed, members' accounts will be paused after 48 hours, and you'll receive up to 4 reminder notifications before being sent to NRC collections after 30 days. This process, however, is only for members who we don't hear back from. If you're having trouble with your credit card, or we can create a payment plan to help you with unpaid invoices, please reach out and let us know. We want you to enjoy the season and will help in any way that we can. I'll pass it back over to Kevin now to discuss our team.
Thank you, Emily. So before we wrap things up, we wanted to give you visibility on your support team at Skipperi. This year, we've added much more support, such as an after-hour customer service specialist to help you 7 days a week from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. We've also added more operational staff to help you keep the fleet in tip-top shape, but also help you at dock in moments of needs. Lastly, we've hired a fleet maintenance specialist who will be doing regular deep clean of our fleet so that the maintenance and upkeep of on the member side of things is a lot easier to manage. I will now pass it over to Sydney, who will cover our communication channels.
Thanks, Kevin. So please do stay in touch. If you're looking for more information, please do visit our website, top left corner there, skipperi.ca/fleet. If you're looking to find some educational content or learn more about boating, please follow us on social media at skipperi.ca, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and we do have a LinkedIn there at the bottom, Skipperi. A reminder about our customer service hours, 7 days a week, 8 to 8. You can call us 1-877-467-1884 or email customerservice@skipperi.ca. Just before we log off, we do have a video to play for you to get you excited about the boating season.
Lately, I've been watching you all night. And baby, I've been feeling you for a while. I don't know what I've got to do, because you love me and I love you so badly. So why don't we make love tonight? Make love tonight. That's what I do.
They are happy and knowing this is just the beginning of happy times ahead.
So that is it for us today. We hope that you now have everything you need to embark on your Skipperi journey. We remain available to answer any questions you may have using the channel Sydney mentioned earlier. And we can't wait to see you on the dock this summer. Thank you, and bye for now.